Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel. My name's Marissa, and today I am doing the first of my wrap-ups for the month of April. So far in this month, I have read 8 books, and of course, as you guys know, it is the Owls Readathon this month, so most of these books are actually for the Owls Readathon, and I know when I did my Owls TBR, I only picked out 7 prompts, because that's all I had to do to become a Hogwarts professor, but I ended up going through and picking a book for every single prompt, because I know that I can read 12 books in a month, and especially because I'm still in quarantine, why the heck not? So anyway, some of these books weren't actually in my original video because I swapped them out. Some of them weren't in there because I wasn't planning on doing that prompt at all. So yeah, you guys will see in a little bit. So the first book that I read in the month of April was, of course, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. This was a book that I had not planned on reading at all. And I needed kind of a break between a couple of books that I was reading, so I decided to pick this up, and I was like, you know what, this one will actually fit in for the History of Magic prompt, which was to read a book about witches and or wizards, so of course this fits in there. So the book that I was originally going to read for that prompt was Fallen by Benedict Jacka. I did end up reading that book, I just didn't read it for the prompt, so anyway. So of course I gave this one a 4 stars. This is a slog. I think this is the longest book. It might be longer than Deathly Hallows. I don't remember. So yeah. So the next book that I read was Bitten by Patricia Briggs. I did read that on ebook, and that is of course in the Mercedes Thompson series. That is the newest book. It just came out, I believe it came out in March or maybe beginning of April. Yeah, I don't remember. Probably March though. So that is of course a fantasy adult novel, and it is about werewolf shapeshifters. So I did read that for the Transfiguration prompt, which I was planning on doing. So the Transfiguration prompt is of course to read a book that features shapeshifting. So that's what I read for that, and of course I gave that one a 4 stars because I absolutely love Mercedes Thompson. This book was actually pretty good. I think it was better than the last couple of books in the series. I think it is definitely picking up again, and I still really enjoy it. I enjoy the world, I enjoy the characters, I enjoy learning more about the characters and getting more into depth with them. So yeah, I think it was really good. So the next book that I read was The Arrangement by Sarah Dunn, and this is a contemporary adult novel, and this I read for the Charms prompt, which is to read a book with a white cover, which this is white and blue, but you know, it's still got a bunch of white on the cover. So this book is actually about this couple who was talking to this other couple, and they learned that these people that they knew had an open marriage. They let their spouse sleep with whoever, whenever. They didn't ask any questions. They didn't really care to know, and it basically opened their marriage up. So this couple decides, okay, well, we're going to give this 6 months. You know, you go sleep with whoever, I'm going to go sleep with whoever. And it doesn't really end up working out like that. Doesn't end up working out well for anybody involved, including the original couple, which they don't find out until they're already in their own situation. So I thought it was definitely an interesting book. It was very much like a kind of a horror story of having an open marriage. Not to say that open marriages don't work for some people. However, pretty much all the characters in this book, it did not work out very well for. So yeah, it was a really good book. I think it only took me like 2 days to read it. It was a very fast read. I did end up giving this one a 4 stars. The next one, of course, that I read was Fallen by Benedict Jacka, and that I listened to on audiobook. Ended up giving that a 4 stars. This is the 10th book in the Alex Verus series, so at this point now I am waiting for a new book to come out so that I can actually read it. This one, I don't know, I really can't explain it to you, but Alex Verus is like a mage, and he gets into all sorts of troubles. Again, this is like the Harry Dresden books. It's like a contemporary magic kind of deal. Definitely an adult novel, very adult themes, you know, death, sex, yada yada yada. So definitely still love this series. So the next book that I read was The Raven Boys, which is of course by Maggie Stiefvater, and This one is a magical realism young adult type novel, and I read this for the Care of Magical Creatures prompt, which was to read a book with a beak, or a beaked animal on the cover, which of course a raven has a beak. So this book was interesting. I did end up giving it 4 stars. The storyline, the premise of it was a lot different than I thought it was going to be. Basically, you're following this girl. Her name is Blue Sargent, and her mother and her aunts and her family are basically psychics, and they keep telling her that the boy that she falls in love with, she is going to kiss, and then he's going to die. Nobody tells her if the reason he dies is because she kissed him, or if he's fated to die anyway. So she really doesn't have any magic per se, but one day they were watching the dead parade past. Well, not the dead, like the spirits of the people who are going to die within the next year parade past this church, and she actually sees one of them, and she finds out the reason is that it's either her true love or she's going to kill him. Well, she doesn't know who this person is. She just knows a name. Well, of course, then she meets the boy who has that name. And she ends up getting involved with this gang of 4 friends who are from this boarding school. She absolutely despises boys from this boarding school because they're all like rich, snobby kids. But somehow she ends up making friends with them. And that part's pretty believable. The magical elements in here are just kind of like a backdrop almost to the friendship story, which is interesting. I think I am definitely going to read at least the second book. I do have all 4 books in the series. I think I am going to read at least the second book and see how I feel about it at that point, and then kind of make a judgment call on whether I'm going to read the rest of them or not, because I don't think they were as enjoyable as I really wanted them to be. So the next book that I read was Becoming the Dark Prince by Kari Maniscalco, and this is a book that is like, it's like 3.5 in the series. It's kind of between books 3 and 4, and it is because most of the time during these books you are following Audrey Rose Wadsworth's perspective, but in this book you're actually following Thomas Cresswell's perspective, so you're kind of getting his thoughts on what's going on in book 3 and then going into book 4. While it was kind of sort of interesting, I do not think that it added anything whatsoever to the storyline of both of the books. If I hadn't paid like 99 cents for it, I'd be pretty pissed off because it was 67 pages and it didn't give me any answers to anything. It didn't really give me any new perspective on anything. So yeah, it was kind of disappointing actually. So I did end up only giving that one a 3 stars, and that I read for the potions prompt, which was to read a book that is under 150 pages. Now, originally I was going to read Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, which was like a little over 200 pages, but then I actually looked on Bookro's website at the book recommendations for this prompt, saw this on there, and I was like, oh, I'm actually reading the books in that series right now, so hey, you know, I'll just pick that up and read it, and you know, that can be for that prompt. And boy was I disappointed. So yeah, definitely would not recommend that one. I might actually lower my rating to more like a 2 star just because I disliked it that much. So the next one that I read was Anna Dressed in Blood by Kendare Blake, and this one is a magical realism young adult novel, and it is about this boy who basically is a ghost hunter. His dad was a ghost hunter. He has this magical athame that he basically takes these ghosts out with, and him and his mom travel all across the country so that he can kill these ghosts. So he runs across a ghost, Anna Dressed in Blood, who he can't kill. She has serious rage problems. She is more powerful and different than any other ghost he's run across. So he starts doing a bunch of research and trying to figure out what's going on and how to kill her. Well, he ends up coming across the ghost that killed his dad. And I will tell you, for being a middle grade book, this was fucking creepy. Like, there was one part where I was like, okay, you're gonna go turn on every light in the fucking house. Like, creepy. Not to say the whole book wasn't creepy, it was just that one part was just like, ugh. Yeah. So anyway, I did think this was pretty decent. The love story in there, if you've read these books, you know what I mean. Like, come, give me a fucking break. Like, it's very insta-lovey, and like, I just don't get it. I don't even understand. So, yeah. Anyway, other than that, I did think this book was pretty good. So this was for the arithmancy prompt, and that was to read a book that is outside of your comfort zone. Originally, I was going to read One for the Blackbird, One for the Crow by Olivia Hawker. I ended up DNFing that book. I read 68 pages into it, and I hated it. It was like a slog, and I'm like pushing myself to keep going, and I'm like, you know what, if I don't like it, I don't like it. I'm DNFing it, putting it down, getting rid of it. I'm not gonna do it, because that one is like a historical fiction about this guy who ends up killing his neighbor because his neighbor was sleeping with his wife, and then he goes to prison, so the wives are like trying to survive by themselves, and this is the Old West, and it's, you know, farming, and their kids aren't very much help. So yeah, it boring to me, because that's just not my type of book. Which was the whole point of the prompt. But I generally don't read like horror books or middle grade, so the Anna Dressed in Blood worked perfectly for that. So the next and final book that I read for the first half of April was The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. I know I just showed this in a book haul. I just recently picked this up at my local used bookstore, and I had never seen the movie. Like, I kind of knew what it was about, but I literally devoured this book in like 4 hours. I sat down and started reading it in the morning on Saturday, and I finished it before the afternoon. So yeah, it was good. It was a very easy, very fast read. Another one that will rip your heart out. The person who dies is not the person you think is going to die, so that was great. Just rip my heart out and stomp all over. I went out to John Green. Thank you very much. So I did end up reading this for the Muggle Studies prompt, and that was to read a book about Muggles, of course, or a contemporary book. So this is a contemporary novel about two kids who are both sick with cancer. One of them is, of course, sicker than the other one, and she doesn't think she has very long to live, although she's kind of surviving. And the other guy, his is not as serious, and it's not really surrounding their illness, but it has to do with their illness, if that makes any sense whatsoever. So I really liked that. I really liked how the characters were portrayed and how differently they were handling what they were going through. You know, some of them were depressed, some of them were optimistic, you know, others kind of fell somewhere in between. So I think it gave a realistic picture of people that are living with terminal illnesses. So yeah. So that is all I have for you guys today. That was the first 8 books that I read, and I still have plans for another 7 books to finish out the Owls Readathon, and I am so looking forward to it. So anyway, that is all I have for you guys today, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for watching my video. I upload every Wednesday and Saturday, and I would really love it if you would like, comment, and subscribe my videos. Have a great day.